The next interviewee is a bit on the margins of the industry, one might think. After our interview, this might be different. Let us welcome somebody who, at the age of 17, joined our industry as a sports journalist. He then joined the Red Bull Media House, where he created Servus, the Servus magazine, one of the most successful new magazines in Austria ever. Let us welcome the head of the Red Bull Media House, Andreas Kornhofer. Well, sorry, I'm guilty as charged. I'm not the CEO of the Red Bull Media House. I'm just in charge of the publishing house. Okay, I wanted to make you bigger than you are. This brings us to the heart of the matter. A lot of people know Red Bull. Some people in the Alps also know the Red Bull Media House. Now we have to show you, first of all, some background. Red Bull was originally a company that filled beverages in cans. And then you threw people out of spaceships. Now, why is Red Bull now also engaged with the media? The reason we do it is because it's fun. I think we have a tradition of telling interesting stories. So storytelling is something that's close to our heart. We make media because we love them. It's not just a hobby, as some may think, but we really love it. And because we want to be economically successful as well. And in most cases, we are successful. Well, these are publishers, and I think the purpose is to produce media. So there's also a lot of sponsoring. So you're a normal company who wants to turn a profit, right? Yes, absolutely. Well, it's maybe a bit different. We always said we developed something. We don't just produce media. We try to develop brands. So when we deal with the Servus magazine, for example, there's a TV channel followed by a magazine, both called Servus. Then 2 years later, there was an online shop where we sold handicraft products from all over Austria. There's also a book publisher that is called Servus. So we see it as a brand, and we can't simply focus on one area. Print media is very important because in order to really understand a brand, you have to be able to touch it. That's why we believe in print. We love print. We love doing it. And print is always an essential leg of our activities. Now, before we go into detail, I think we have to take one step back and talk about the brands that you have. So for those who don't know you, you're very active in the Alps, Austria, Switzerland, southern Germany. So we have Servus, it's lifestyle and home. In Germany, there's Landliebe. So I'll breeze through. There's the Red Bulletin, adventure and lifestyle, Bergwelten, experience, nature, and Terra Mater, also nature. So describe why you are in those fields and what exactly you do in those areas. I think we're specialized. We pick out interesting subjects. Servus, for example, deals with nature, essentially a good lifestyle, housing, handicraft. So what we like is we take up a subject and we try to interpret it differently. There's a hiking magazine, hiking in the mountains, but for us, it is not so much about the technical stuff, but it's about the cultural dimension. So the mountain chalets, we are actually leaders in the outdoor magazines, so we try to have a very broad-based approach. Well, just give us an idea, the circulation, number of staff, for those who don't know them. Let me start with the Red Bulletin in 7 countries, circulation of 3 million. So quite international. Servus, about 1 million readers in Austria. We sell about 125,000 every month. And there's a number of line extensions, a cooking magazine, good cuisine, housing, gardening, where we're market leaders in many segments. Then there's Servus Bayern, Bavaria, where we sell about maybe 70,000 copies in southern Germany, which isn't bad. 17? No, 70,000. So then Bergwelten, a very seasonal magazine, stronger in the summer than in winter. We sell between 70 and 80 or 85,000 copies. Terramata is a small magazine, but we believe it has a lot of potential. So we need a long-term approach. We sell about 10,000 in Austria and another 10,000 in Germany. So the traditional approach had been that first you have a magazine, then nothing for a long time, and then you have a little bit of multimedia on top. So you're still relatively new to this business. Describe with the example of Servus, which is quite successful, how you have developed this brand, what channels were added at which point, and how. I'm not going to talk about the channels as such. It's too technical. First, we developed the brand. The brand stands for something. Servus. Why is Servus so successful? I think Servus is successful because our lives are so complicated and getting ever more complicated. We're living in a global village. You can do everything you want. The only thing that you lose is, well, being with both feet firmly on the ground. So why is the local content so successful? Or the regional content so successful? Because in the global village, people lose this touch of being with both legs firmly planted on the ground. So Servus is a very local content. We develop a brand. We think about what the brand stands for and what can we do with the various media in terms of that brand image. Well, you see that I'm quite technocratic. How do you develop the brand through the various channels? So first you develop the brand, then the magazine, then the digital world. So how did you proceed with the 4 titles that you came up with? Well, first we had Servus, so the TV channel, then the print channel. Then we thought about how to properly implement the digital channel. We're still not finished. And the servus.com, we're quite happy with that, but we know that that's not the ultima ratio. So first there's TV, then there's print, and then we have a good online shop. For Bergwelten, Mountain World, well, we had print and media all rolled into one from the very beginning. We also have an integrated desk where we have one desk producing print and digital versions. For Terramata, we're very strong. We have the TV format. Well, we had that before. And then there was a magazine. And in the digital world, we're still thinking about it. We're not known to be the fastest in the industry. And for the digital world, we sometimes spend a lot of time reflecting on how to do it. But when we do something, we do it right. Well, if you go with the flow, it's not always necessarily the right way. Well, I think we're a good example that goes to show that it makes sense to go against the flow. If you told somebody in 2010 that we are now going to invest in print and we believe in print, well, in 2010 they looked at us as if we were really an exotic bird. But with Servus, we set up a magazine that had a break-even 2 years later. Well, we couldn't believe that this might happen ourselves, but I think it makes sense to go against the flow, to know about the rules of print. We know them all, but sometimes you need to break the rules and to use a different tack, and I think that sometimes it makes sense. Now, 8 years ago, when everybody focused on the digital world, well, how did you internally prevail when you said that we also need a print magazine to start out with? Well, I don't remember exactly how I managed to convince everybody. When we developed the print magazine, well, we were very quick off the mark. But let me ask you another question. Everybody knows Airbnb. It's a positive global digital brand. They started doing a print magazine last year. So why do they do that? Did they get mad? Are they crazy? Or what gave them the idea? A strange idea, I guess. But the truth is, in order to understand a brand, to be able to feel and touch it, to make it tangible, you should be able to touch it. And that's our axis. So when we had the idea of Servus, we knew we wanted to have a cool magazine, something that you can touch. And Servus was successful because the stories that we told, the photography, the design, but also the paper, the tactile dimension, well, it's all just a one-stop shop. And you need to have such a print product to be able to touch it. Well, you have a broad product range. So, of course, print counts. And you said that you don't really know where you're headed in the digital world, but you are thinking about this. So what's typical of magazines is that often you don't have the right frequency or footfall. Mr. Pater, well, he has the benefit that if he does it right, then there's a lot of traffic and he can redirect the traffic. But tell us more about your ideas of what you want to do differently in the digital world.
Well, of course, we learned things the hard way. At the beginning, we said, well, the classical print dinosaurs, they said that whatever is good comes into the print medium and the waste goes to the digital medium. And that was not the right approach. And then we failed differently because we wanted to just do things the same way in the digital world. So I think the approaches are different. In the digital field, too, you need high quality because whatever I need, I find digitally. Now, in 2018, some people are anachronistic by printing paper, and that's what we do. We print newspaper. But, of course, you can't print things the same way as 10 or 15 years ago. Newsprint now has to look different. Now, in the digital realm, too, you need to have quality. You need to position yourself the right way in order to distinguish yourself from others because there's a jungle out there. Now, of course, we don't know it all, but we try to come up with a unique experience. We are not copying or emulating a magazine. We are building a Servus world. We've got an online shop that's part of this world. Maybe in the future will make it possible for our users to book their vacations. So digitally speaking, you need to know no boundaries. Well, much larger corporations also think about how to put the business on track. So you've got print, you've got digital, you've got a transactional business, meaning you also sell products. Now, why don't you give us some examples of these products, and what about the proceeds? How important is the classical business, even though you can't really draw the line? Now, the classical, old-fashioned business, how important is it still for you? Well, the transactional business, we're in a nascent period, Bergwelten. Well, we launched it 3 years ago. We also set up a digital platform to go with it. If things go well, our digital platform, bergwelten.com, will stop losing money next year. So I think that's a good track record after 3 years. So we started out early on because we have an organically grown community. Early on, we started organizing events, doing things together such as hiking, climbing. We hike on Großglockner together with Gelinde Kaltenbrunner. So the community likes that. But that's really quite small compared to the classical business, this transactional business. But we believe in its merits. We're developing it together and jointly. Now, as far as Servus is concerned, well, we looked into natural health, and we have a lot of credibility. We've got the best people in Austria and in southern Germany on our team. So slowly but surely, we're selling things to our subscribers. Now, compared to the classical business, where you analyze sales and other stuff, this is still small. All right. So you've continued to expand the existing business. What things are in the pipeline? You talked about lifestyle entertainment. You talked about things that work well. So how about countering digitization, your own village, your own home, your own region? your own turf, as it were. Well, with our magazines, we're showing that turf, your own turf, your own home, well, this can be interpreted in a very unbiased way, in a very objective way. And it shouldn't be instrumentalized by right-wingers, for example. So we very much believe in print, that's what we can say, and we have certainly not reached the end of our journey. There are still a lot of things that we're looking at, societal developments, for example. That gives us a lot of food for thought. Yeah. One more question. Gruner und Jahr, well, they focus on smaller and smaller target groups. Men who like putting beef on their barbecue. They don't think about business, politics, society, events. They have smaller target groups. Well, Gruner and Jahr had better do this. Yes, I think we are moving in the same direction. We came up with a magazine for fishermen, for example. We did that last year, and it's a very small target group. But actually, there's 6 million people who like going fishing in Austria and in Germany. So it's not that small an area. Fishing, rock climbing, hiking, there's a lot of potential to be tapped into. And you can merge that with lifestyle, and then you're on the right track. Well, we don't have more time for this interesting presentation and conversation. And with this, I'd like to thank you very much.